If you've ever gotten bad or unhelpful feedback on a piece, you know how it can sting and, in some cases, permanently dissuade you from further developing a piece. So much of the feedback we receive is framed like, "This is bad," or "You should do this to make it better." I got a ton of this feedback coming up in school, and I like to assume most of it was well-intentioned. People were just trying to help. But a lot of times it didn't. Tim and I often provide each other feedback on our stories in progress, and I wanted to share how we approach that work. Most importantly, Tim and I trust and respect each other. We know that our approach to giving and receiving feedback comes from a fully supportive point of view. Rather than focus on the empirical quality of the work, which can fluctuate wildly from draft to draft, instead, we provide feedback based on the stage that the story is in. Remember, even well-intentioned feedback is not useful or appropriate all the time. Feedback on a work in progress can nurture a story or kill it. So we try to give feedback that helps to enhance strengths rather than showcase its flaws. Think of your story in 3 simple stages: early, middle, and late. Early stages might be a story in its infancy, an idea that you're coaxing out of a story prompt, or a sentence that caught your eye, and you're writing through the junk to get to the good stuff. At this stage, feedback about grammar and sentence structure would be counterproductive, or kind of a waste, like suggesting crown molding on a burned-out house. We've got bigger things to worry about. Tim likes to give me stories in the early stage, especially when he has a compelling hook or situation that writes itself into a corner. Tim is fond of sending me incomplete movements that have no ending and asking for my impression of, "Is this going anywhere?" or "What is working in this fragment?" I typically share which parts of the existing narrative are most compelling to me, and I stopped short of "do this" comments. Frequently, I just offer questions for Tim to consider. For example, Tim has the story in the style of a TV commercial description, and I told him, "You have framed the story like a commercial script, so what is it selling? Who's the target of the ad? I like the framing, but what is it in service of?" Tim's response to that question was priceless, and I think it got him excited to tackle the next draft. I hope he finishes that one and publishes it soon. When early stage stories are fresh and new, they are too easily smothered by the weight of too much critique, however well-intentioned. That is why Tim and I rely so much on questioning techniques. We understand that our stories need guidance from draft to draft. We offer feedback not to fix problems, but rather to spot opportunities for further exploration. In the early stage, being curious is our preferred approach. Middle stage stories are generally complete movements with a beginning, middle, and end. I tend to share my work with Tim in the middle stages. Recently, I pledged to start sharing true works in progress, whether they are 5 words or 5,000 words. But try as I might, I have not yet screwed my courage to the sticking post. Tim is often my story's first real reader, and maybe it's that protective instinct kicking in. When Tim gives me feedback in the middle stage, he often surprises me with thought-provoking questions that change my understanding of my own story. Maybe my ending is great, but does the character change enough justify us getting there? Was I so focused on my cool, predetermined ending that I wrote past an even better one? What would happen if you started the story here in a different spot, or rearranged the narrative from A, B, C to C, A, B? Is this section completely necessary to achieve the overall effect, or can we make it shorter and accomplish the same thing? Tim loves to make my stories shorter. Middle stage stories are developed enough to handle the strain of a full critique. Even so, the purpose is always to elevate what is there, never to knock it down. Late-stage stories are fully formed and are close to being publishable. The beats, characters, hooks, twists, etc., they're all working. This is where we tend to focus more scalpel precision in the language and the sentence structure. We obsess over style. Sometimes Tim likes to experiment, and he will do something unexpected with italics or some other story form, and he'll ask me if it works. Where it gets sticky is when one of us submits a late-stage piece, and the other comes back with middle-stage or early-stage feedback. That can hit like a gut punch, like, man, I thought this one was pretty much done. However, better to hear it from someone you trust than from 20 lit journals rejecting you with form letters. At least then we can revise before submitting and give ourselves more of a chance to land the piece. So as you can see, Tim and I are very thoughtful about how to support each other and get the best output from our writing process. We've even helped listeners before. If you'd like to try this out, email us. If we have time, we can show you how we do it. Writing is lonely, but you don't have to go it alone. See you next week. Start writing.